All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Major General Retired SP Astana. He's a defense expert. Thank you very much, Major General Astana, for joining us here on ET Now. I want to first ask you about that, the apprehensions that New Delhi has communicated, that New Delhi perhaps has expressed. Is there a possibility at all of reversal in this case of ADB? Can a reversal at all be done by ADB with respect to its bailout to Pakistan?
See, the concerns of India are genuine, but notwithstanding that, as an analyst, I must tell you that the chances of reversal of any of these loans, whether IMF or ADB or World Bank, are not very much, for very simple reason, because there is a strategic intent to ensure that Pakistan is kept slightly above the sinking level. It is not allowed to sink. Not that any of these countries who control these banks are interested in prosperity of Pakistan, but the problem is that all of them have stakes in Pakistan, and especially in the strategic space of Pakistan. And that is one of the reasons as to why Pakistan keeps getting bailouts. They've got 25th of them if we start counting from 1958. And perhaps they are the country that is from the IMF, and perhaps they are the country which has got the largest or maximum number of IMF bailouts so far. These banks also know that Pakistan doesn't have the kind of capacity to pay back, and therefore the economic viability of these loans is not of the kind which perhaps it may not be the most financially sound decision, but I would highlight that it is a strategic decision. Now, let me highlight this part because that is what everybody has to understand, especially the viewers have to understand. You see, Pakistan lies at a strategic space that America, if it has to launch any operations against Iran, a land operation against Iran, it needs the land space of Pakistan by any stretch of imagination. There is no other route to logistically sustain a major operation against Iran from the ground or any ground offensive. That's one. The second issue is that the Western countries are also slightly worried that the nuclear weapons which are there in Pakistan, if Pakistan disintegrates, the technology, all the dirty bombs can get into the hands of the terrorists. And therefore, some establishment, Pakistan should not be allowed to sink, and the establishment which can control and safeguard these assets, that should remain in power. And that is why you will find that there is a tacit support to Pakistan military, irrespective of whatever terrorism and whatever nonsense they are doing. The third issue is that the terror network of Pakistan has been used to their advantage by Western countries in past, whether it was breaking up of USSR or it was utilizing them to target some of their terrorists or some of the terrorists whom they wanted to target, maybe Al-Qaeda, maybe some others. Now, this potential still remains. And therefore, there is a strategic interest to ensure that leverage is not lost. The fourth aspect is, if you see the way the world functions, if you take out any intelligence agencies or even police agencies, when they have to get the information, they have a network of gundas whom they normally try and pick up and keep good relations with to gain information or to somehow resolve some of the issues which cannot be resolved legally.
Right, sir.
Now, Pakistan has a network with these terrorists in a manner that if CIA wants to get something done, they can get it done from Pakistan military. And Pakistan military has obliged in past. Even recently, you would have seen some of the IS terrorists have been handed over to America. So these are the strategic interests which
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah. Back to you.
Right, sir. So, very well put, those four reasons that you've pointed out, because of which ADB and, of course, the IMF, they keep continuing to fund Pakistan's economy with the help of these bailouts. But, sir, my question is, what is the best that India can do? Do you anticipate it to officially lodge a protest at the ADB? Because given the fact that the IMF, after it approved that bailout to Pakistan, it did end up imposing 11 conditions on Pakistan for its bailout, and it warned it against risk. Do you anticipate any similar action or reaction coming in from ADB if India officially lodges that protest?
Certainly, India should continue this effort, the diplomatic effort, as well as all the efforts to highlight Pakistan's link with terrorists, as well as the Pakistan's actions as far as the terrorists are concerned, and also the financial unviability of the loans which are being given to Pakistan. This effort must continue. There is no doubt about it. But at the same time, what I would say, the effort will be a little more fruitful if we are able to somehow crack FATF and get the Pakistan back into FATF grey list. Because then what happens is that all these banks come under certain conditions.
Right, sir.
That if you are in a grey list, then the loans,
right.
then giving the loans becomes difficult. If you recall, they were there earlier in the grey list, and there were a restriction of loans earlier, at least twice they were there on the grey list. Subsequently, they were taken off from the grey list. And
right,
at the behest of so many countries, China as well as USA as well as other Western countries. Now, this is, if we can somehow crack and get Pakistan into grey list, I think we will be able to perhaps technically be able to stop some
Absolutely.
of these fund flows which are getting into Pakistan.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Right, sir. And India continues its diplomatic offensive against Pakistan, and sources a couple of weeks back told ET Now that, of course, it will be raising that matter with FATF to once again put Pakistan into that, grey list. But let me come back to the point about ADB. Can ADB in itself ensure that its funds are not diverted towards military expenditures in Pakistan, which eventually end up sponsoring terror on its soil? Can it ask for commitments from Pakistan?
Certainly, I think we can have a diplomatic offensive with ADB as well, because ADB is generally dominated by Japan. And Japan doesn't have too much of strategic interest in Pakistan. So, and it has very good relations with India too. It is also part of Quad. And in Quad, we have an agenda regarding counterterrorism. So I think we have a better chance in ADB as compared to IMF. Where the dominating powers in IMF have a lot of strategic interest in Pakistan. So I think ADB, we do stand a good chance, and we should continue the diplomatic offensive as well as exposing Pakistan again and again with the strong proofs of Pakistan's linkages with terrorism, number one. And number two, the diversion of funds of Pakistan in past. So therefore, that also perhaps can help making a case against ADB.
Right. Sir, and India has continued with its diplomatic offensive. We do have MPs now coming back from, visiting global capitals, of course, taking that message across to global capitals about Pakistan sponsoring terror. But aside of these diplomatic measures that you suggest, what other measures can be implemented to ensure that financial assistance that's given to Pakistan, it leads to meaningful economic reforms rather than perpetuating a cycle of dependency on these international institutions like IMF and ADB?
See, India, this is I think it's a bigger strategic game wherein certainly economic strangulation of Pakistan has to be the goal. And in that, we have to get so many players together. As far as India is concerned, I think we have already taken a lot of measures like trade. We have barred the trade. We have stopped the movement of the people to some extent with visa restrictions, and the diplomatic scale down has also taken place. So certain measures have already been taken. But there is no doubt that beyond these measures, we have to somehow bring out the linkages of various terror attacks in various parts of the world to Pakistan and keep highlighting. That is where perhaps the information war may be of great help. Today is the information warfare age. There is no reason why hundreds of articles should not be flowing out from India, as well as not only from India, but from the world magazines with Indian authors contributing there, or the authors who write against terrorism, they be capitalized in a manner that bulk of the Western media is brings out the reasons as to why this money is likely to strengthen the terrorists, and it is not going to be the good terrorist. It is also good and bad terrorists both. So because West believes in good and bad terrorists, because for them terrorists harming India are not really terrorists; they are freedom fighters, and terrorists harming them are terrorists. And they feel that the good terrorist can help them in getting the bad terrorists, and that is why perhaps they don't. They stop looking one part of the terrorism in Pakistan, and they think Pakistan certainly thinks that terrorists are strategic assets, but others also think that we can perhaps make use of that strategic assets to our advantage if there is a requirement like that. So that is where perhaps we are there.
Right.
It's not that
Right.
world is liking their terrorism, but the problem is, as far as the Western world is concerned, they also do not want. I mean, in a strategic
Right.
contestation and power play, they do not want Pakistan
Absolutely.
and strategic space to go entirely to China.
Right.
So that is why they are also investing. Because see, let's say hypothetically, all
Right.
these institutes they stop loans. Let's take it for a minute. India
Right, sir.
makes a lot of
Right, sir.
campaigns, and all these loans stop.
I
Let's say
agree.
hypothetically.
Yes, sir.
Then what happens is China has recently
Yes,
given
sir.
them 3.7
Yes, sir.
billion dollar loan.
I agree. Yeah.
So what is going to happen is then
Yes.
Pakistan will
So,
is
to
in any case
balance
is
out the
follow.
Chinese funding, what you're suggesting is, which is why these Western powers are continuously, of course, they continue to give these doleouts. And of course, we do know that the United States has a lot of weight when it comes to, IMF bailouts that are given as part of IMF. US has a lot of weight. But so when you talk about isolating Pakistan diplomatically and presenting proofs, well, Osama bin Laden was found on Pakistani soil. The US knows that because it perpetrated the biggest terror attack in the history of the United States. Secondly, talking about proofs, well, as far as Lashkar terrorists are concerned, India has several times submitted those proofs at the United Nations. So perhaps that goes on to prove your point about the fact that these loans and this kind of support is given as part of a strategic and geopolitical measure. But let me ask you, in that light, given the fact that Operation Sindoor is still going on, and we do have our MPs visiting global capitals, what do you make of this overall campaign? Has that brought about any change in how the world is going to deal with Pakistan?
See, this campaign has certainly made a good change. It's a good initiative, and I think, and one is quite satisfied with the way the campaign has brought out the unity of India against terrorism. That's a very big message which has gone, and Indian resolve against terrorism. That is a good message which has gone. Secondly, it's not that these diplomatic initiatives are futile. If you see that after Osama bin Laden was found, the American funding to Pakistan did come down drastically. It did come down for a to a very great extent. But then what happens is over a period of time, when USA had to leave Afghanistan, that is the time they realized that now that we are not there in Afghanistan, we need somebody to help us out in tackling the growing influence of ISIS and Al Qaeda in Afghanistan and in the adjacent areas. So therefore, they thought that we cannot abandon Pakistan because that can be used for this purpose in some manner or the other. So they are backing a horse, not very sure whether that will succeed or not. But then certainly they feel that this is the better option than Pakistan only singing Chinese tunes, number one. Number two, as far as China is concerned, the ETIM was troubling them quite a bit. That's a terror organization that is which backs which fights China against the exploitation of Uyghurs. Now,
What
with
after
General
this?
Musharraf there and China putting a lot of stakes on General Musharraf, the ETIM did come under control. They had fair amount of bases in Pakistan, which were actually removed, and they do still have some bases in Afghanistan. But then China did find that Pakistan was the machinery, the ISI and military machinery of Pakistan was of some help to them in controlling ETIM. So therefore, that is the story of good and bad terrorism that everybody feels. That is why you would have seen that a number of terrorists whom we wanted to, like even TRF, we wanted to be declared as global terror organization, and China put a technical hold. Now, obviously, that is Chinese interest to, that is in Chinese interest because Pakistan military, irrespective of what nonsense they do, they still feel that perhaps these guys have some kind of control and some kind of linkages to reach out to these terrorists in some manner or the other.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, one of the investments board, the army has a significant influence so far as FDI coming into the country is concerned. But absolutely, so like you said, that accountability has to be said. And Trump, while talking of trade with Pakistan, cannot really hyphenate India and Pakistan, given the fact that, the United States has itself been a victim of Pakistan sponsored terrorism. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us here on this big story. Appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you.